Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. So we have only one wide release last weekend, and that is Birds of Prey, which is the spin-off of the Suicide Squad movie, right? Focusing on Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie, and her cast of other colorful characters, villains, women villains. And this is a movie that I said could probably open somewhere in the 120 million ish range because of the previous DC superhero movies. They did really well, right? Joker opened to 96 million. Suicide Squad, the movies this movie spun off of, opened to 133 million. And Aquaman, a lesser known character, Aquaman, played by Jason Momoa, opened to 68 million. And and that's just the recent movies, right? And Wonder Woman opened to 103 million. And I said, Suicide Squad opened really well. This is a movie that's Birds of Prey is a movie that's spun off of, and because of the halo effect from the other DC superhero movies, which would affect this one. That this one would probably get a bump from that, a boost from that, to maybe 120 million opening or so, right? Or so I thought, right? Unfortunately, this movie kind of bombed. Well, this movie didn't bomb, but it disappointed, right? Tracking had this movie probably opening higher, maybe in the low to mid 50 million range or so, right? But this movie only pulled in 33.3 million in its opening weekend. And you can't really knock the reviews, right? Reviews were good for this movie, 80% on the tomato meter and a B plus cinema score. So reviews are good, right? There is really no rhyme or reason why this movie shouldn't do better than it did, right? I mean, it only did 33.3 million, and the projection were upper, even in the lowish range, right, in the 40s, right? But this one only in the 33 million-ish range, right? So ignore my 120 million. I was way optimistic because of based on previous movie. I mean, the only explanation I can give, despite the good reviews, is that this is more of a female movie instead of a male targeted movie, right? What I mean by that is like Wonder Woman, right? Despite that it's centered on a Wonder Woman, it's more action packed. It's more geared toward the theme of action, adventure, and violence. Whereas Birds of Prey is more like there's this thing as well. There's this violence as well, but it's rated R for one, right? I mean, it limits the target audience somewhat, and that it is more pretty much like women behaving badly. And this is just like crazy women out there, having fun, wrecking things up, and that's what I meant by it's more targeted toward the female than the male, which makes up the target audience for these superhero movies. So that's the only explanation I can give. In addition, I guess, to the coronavirus fear, I'm not sure how much that plays into it, but we will see, right, with this weekend as well. So that's the only thing I can give. That's the only explanation I can give for this performance for Birds of Prey, which by all measures should, perform way better than the 33.3 million this movie opened to. So I'm not sure if it'll get an uptick, right? I mean, it depends on how long it'll stay in theaters, how leggy this movie is, right? But it's not looking good for Birds of Prey. I mean, I think it's still going to be a profitable movie, but it's not going to be as profitable since the the budget for this movie is supposedly around about 85 million or so, which is cheap for a superhero movie. But then again, like I said, I don't know why this movie underperformed. It's probably one of the, or a combination of the reasons that I gave. All right, let's see how it did overseas. Overseas, it pulled in about 48 million for a worldwide total of about 81.3 million. So we will keep an eye on it on the second weekend. I expect probably somewhere in the 50ish, no, or maybe not. I don't know, because Valentine's Day is this weekend. It might be a perfect date movie. All right, let's move on to number 2, which is Bad Boys for Life. Drop off about 32% from the previous weekend. This is this fourth weekend to pull in about 12 million. Domestic gross so far is 166.3 million, and an additional 170 million for a worldwide total of 336 million. This is a movie that I performed better than I thought it would do, given the length of time between the previous movies. The previous movie, Bad Boys 2, was released back in 2003, right? Lots of years has passed. I said this movie could probably open to somewhere in the 20 to 25 million range, but it opened way better, 62 million, and it keeps on performing. Budget is 90 million, which is actually pretty good, and so they're already making Bad Boys 4 as of yet untitled, but there's that. I mean, they can build off of this momentum for Bad Boys 4. All right, number 3 is 1917, which is Sam Mendes' World War One movie, which then win Best Picture for Sam Mendes at the Oscar last night. But still, it did really well at the box office, right? In the 7th weekend, it pulled in 9 million, drop off about 5%. These are estimates, by the way. The real numbers will come in later today. 9 million in its 7th weekend, getting this awards bump, right? So domestic growth so far is 133 million, and overseas it pulled in 155 million. It did well overseas. I thought this movie might not do that well overseas, given that it is a World War One movie, and war movies are not in vogue. But then again, Sam Mendes. But then again, there's something like this movie is sold as being shot in a single take. Yeah, whatever. Right. So worldwide, it already grossed 287 million. So it didn't win the Best Picture or Director for Sam Mendes, 1917, but it did. But it is winning at the box office. All right, number 4 is Dolittle, which is the reboot, remake of the Dr. Dolittle movies about a scientist who could speak with animals, right? This one is played by Robert Downey Jr., and this is pretty much a period piece that takes place during the colonial times. It's poorly reviewed, 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, with a B cinema score. So I guess the target audience, children, liked it, except that it didn't inspire enough people to watch it, right? This movie is it's a bomb for 2020. Is it the first bomb? I'm not certain at this point, but it is a bomb. Huge budget. It needs to open somewhere in the 50 million plus, right? But it only opened to about 22 million. And in this fourth weekend, it put in about 6.7 million for a domestic total of 64 million, and additional 95 million overseas for a worldwide total of 159 million. Like I said, you need at least double your budget for the movie to break even worldwide. So ways to go for this movie to break even. So this movie is going to lose money for Universal. All right, number 5 is Jumanji: The Next Level, which is the second Jumanji movie starring The Rock, right? Dwayne Johnson. In its 9th weekend, it pulled in 5.5 million. It's still going strong at the box office. Drop off is pretty low, about 8% from the previous weekend. And let's see, domestic gross so far is nearing 300 million, right? 298 million. Overseas, it put in an additional 470 million for a worldwide total of 768 million. So it's doing very well. Domestically and overseas, comparison. The first movie only opened to 36 million, right? It went on to make 404 million domestically. It did really well. The first movie kept on staying in theaters. It didn't open well, but it has legs, right? It stayed in theaters week over week, right? And then 962 million worldwide, and then budget's only 90 million. This one, the budget is a little bit higher, 125 million. It's not grossing as high as the first movie, but hey, it's already at crossed the 700 million mark, so it's doing very well overseas. So expect to see a third Jumanji movie with Dwayne Johnson. All right, number 6 is the Guy Ritchie thriller gangster movie, The Gentleman. In its 3rd weekend, it pulled in about 4.2 million, drop off about 26% from the previous weekend. And let's see, domestically, it's at about 27 million. Overseas, it pulled in an additional about 34 million for a worldwide total about 60 million. The budget for this movie is about 20 million, so it's actually doing okay for itself at the box office. All right, number 7 is the horror movie Gretel and Hansel. In its second weekend, it dropped about 42% from its opening frame to pull in about 3.5 million. This is a movie that I say could probably open up somewhere between 10 to 15 million, but it opened to about 6 million, and it's kind of disappointing to me because I thought the trailer looks good. Right, I thought it would open better, but again, it could be a lot of things that affect the movie going experience as well, right? This the Super Bowl for one, then the Oscar coming in this weekend, but who watches the Oscars, right? Anyway, domestic gross for this movie is about 11.5 million. Hasn't opened that wide overseas yet, about 1.6 million overseas for a worldwide total of 13 million. Budget for this movie is probably low. The budget for Gretel and Hansel is somewhere probably around 5 million or so, at most 10. So it's actually doing okay at the box office, which and then it'll go over to streaming, home video, and what have you. All right, number 8 is Knives Out. It is the comedy thriller with Daniel Craig, right, as this detective who is investigating the death of this patriarch of this quirky family. It's doing very well. They have already greenlit a sequel to this movie. In its 11th weekend, it pulled in about 2.4 million. Let's see, domestic gross so far is 159 million, right? And overseas it pulled in an additional 141 million for a worldwide total of nearly 300 million. The budget for this movie is 40 million, so that's a great return for this this mid-tier budgeted movie. All right, number 9 is the drama Little Women. It's based on Louisa May Alcott's novel of the same name, directed by Greta Gerwig, starring Saoirse Ronan, Emma Watson, Florence Pugh, and Eliza Scanlon. 4 sisters, right? Adapting, coming of age during the Civil War. In its 7th weekend, this movie pulled in about 2.3 million for a domestic total of 103 million. Overseas, it pulled in additional 75 million for a worldwide total of 177 million. So the budget for Little Women is supposedly around 40 million or so. So it's doing very well at the box office here and overseas. All right, let's close out the top 10 with Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. In its 8th weekend, it pulled in about 2.2 million for a domestic total of 511 million, right? Overseas, it pulled in an additional 551 million for a worldwide total of about 1.1 billion. So I guess a good send-off for the, this trilogy, even though it might not gross as much as the previous movies, it still crossed $1 billion. It's still a $1 billion grosser. And of course, this being Disney, they're gonna continue to crank out more Star Wars movies. All right, so that's it for the box office top 10. Let's move on to the new releases this weekend. We're gonna have 3 wide release, and they are Sonic the Hedgehog, which is the live action / CGI movie that's based on a video game, right? And then the horror movie Fantasy Island, that's I guess is based on the TV series. And then the Photograph, which is a romance movie targeted toward the African American audience, right? Let's start off with Sonic the Hedgehog. So Sonic, you probably heard that this movie, when the trailer first came out, it was the stuff of nightmares, right? People were really critical of the model for Sonic, right? It was very hairy. It has teeth that would scare little kids, right? So it looks nothing like the Sonic that people know and love. Right, so they kind of redo the CGI for Sonic, and yeah, they made it better, right? But the question is that is it good enough to I guess overcome the first impression, right? Or people still gonna pan this movie because of the that impression? This movie is is not this movie is really targeted toward the little kids. It stars Jim Carrey, Ben Schwartz, James Marsden, right? Carrey stars as the bad guy, Dr. Robotnik. I believe Ben Schwartz is the voice of Sonic and James Marsden as his human sidekick. Supposedly the budget for this movie is 95 million. I don't know if it went up due to the redo of the CGI. It's probably 100 million or cross 100 million. My bet, given the reaction to the first movie, I don't think it's gonna overcome that that first impression. And again, I guess there's some elements here that's suppressing the box office. Movies that I thought could perform better didn't. It performed way lower, and it could be, like I said, due to the coronavirus scare. I'm not sure. It could be that, or it could be like a confluence of events like Super Bowl, Oscars, what have you. And this weekend is Valentine's Day. It shouldn't affect Sonic the Hedgehog, because it is not that type of movie, right? It's a children movie, it's a family movie, but or family or children gonna turn out for this one, and I probably say no. No reviews yet. I'm sure they're gonna the reviews are not gonna be good, not gonna be kind to this movie. Probably somewhere in the 20% range for on Rotten Tomatoes. So still, it's a name movie. It's a big budget movie. The advertising, they're gonna flood the advertisement, the airwaves with ads for this movie. So I think this movie is probably gonna open somewhere up in the 15 to 20 million range, 3 days this weekend. All right, next up we have Fantasy Island. Another low budget movie from Blumhouse. Jason Blum and company. Budgeted at 7 million or so for this movie. Jeff Wadlow directs. Is best known for directing Kick-Ass 2. That movie. Based comic book movie with Jim Carrey as well. So this movie stars Lucy Hale, Maggie Q, Portia Doubleday, Jimmy O Yang. It is a horror movie. I believe it's based on the TV series of the same name, except it has a horror twist to it. They made this into a horror movie, and the ads for this movie had it as a date movie. Take your date to this horror movie. Supposedly this movie is projected to open somewhere in the 15 million ish mark or so, right? But like I said, there's something suppressing the box office recently, so I think this movie could probably have an opening somewhere in the 10 million ish mark. All right, lastly we have The Photograph, which is a romance movie starring African American cast, billed as a date movie. The two couples met up, and I guess they have to find out this woman played by Issa Rae, her mother died and left her a photograph, and she has to get to the bottom of this photograph, and had to confront the past, and this movie had to reconcile with her own emotions as well. She met this I guess photographer journalist played by Lakeith Steinfeld. They hit it off, but the Ray's character has issue with trusting people. Anyway, how romance movie goes, right? I guess the great thing about The Photograph is that it's more like a straight romance movie instead of a erotic thriller, like past movies that's target toward the African American audience, right? The Photograph, I don't have I think it's gonna be a good movie, a good romance movie, right? But I don't think it's something that would people would turn out for, right? So an opening in the 5 million-ish range is probably right for The Photograph this weekend. All right, so that's all I have for you this time. Tune in next time to see how my projections went. Until then, take care. Bye bye.